All right, so welcome everybody. We're gonna go ahead and start the meeting. I'll turn it over to Todd to get us started, and then we'll do roll call.
Okay, thank you. So this is the State Building Code Council for April 5th, 2023. This is combined IBC and IFC tag. I think technically we're under the IBC tag, right? So we'll take roll on that first, please.
All righty, starting with the IBC roll call. Todd Bayruther,
Here.
Dustin, you went on mute after Todd.
apologies on that one. I was trying to use the keyboard to make sure I stay muted when appropriate. So we got Todd, we got Adam Phillips, Alan Spalding,
Here.
Andrea Smith, Bill Mybush,
Present.
Charles Calvano, Chris Seaman, Corey Thomas,
I'm here.
Dave Germer, Michael Barth,
I'm here.
Susan Kaufman,
Here.
Roger Herringa,
Here.
Sean Karlstrom, Will Rodriguez.
I think Will was ex officio member.
Okay.
I think we did it last year.
Let me see if I got people in the room that maybe didn't call.
This is Mark Smith, and I'm present.
Gotcha. And with that, we do have a quorum present at the moment.
Okay, thank you. That's for the IBC. And then just for the sake of completeness here, let's take roll on the IFC, please.
10-4. For the IFC, Tony Doan, Chris Seaman, Corey Thomas,
Still here.
Dave Colcutt,
Here.
Ken Brulette, Kevin Marr, Mike Six, Ken Tai, Ricky Campbell, Roger Herringa, Zach.
am-
Oh, you're here.
I am here, but I didn't know that I was on the fire.
I've got your name on the list.
Okay.
I'm sorry if you're not on there. I will correct that by the next meeting.
Okay.
Zach Tuck and Paul Clark.
Okay, well, thank you, Dustin. And then to complete item 1, any other public, any other introductions? Anybody for the public like to be recognized?
This is Ron Wright.
Thank you, Ron.
Thanks.
Okay. Okay, with that, we'll move into reviewing and approving the agenda. Can I hear a motion to approve, please?
This is Al. I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda as shown on the screen.
Thank you, Al.
Second.
All right, thank you, Michael. Any other discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Nay. Okay, so approved. We'll move to item 3, and I'll hand it over to Dustin or Stoyan, please, to remind us where we are.
Okay, I will share my screen, and before I do that, just a question for the fire code TAC members. I'm well, I'm expecting we'll be done with the building code portion today. There are some sections in the fire code. And I was wondering if we need to have specific fire code tag meetings for the fire code portion, or, I mean, the language is very similar, if not the same. So I don't need the answer right now, but, you know, just we may need to discuss that at that little later. And I will share my screen. And I think the last meeting we went through section 1010, and I can't recall if we covered this one, 1017.2.
I don't believe that we did.
I agree.
Okay, so but we did cover 1010, right? You agree with me?
Yeah, I had agreed that it was no longer
Yes,
part
that's
of
good.
my proposal
Okay.
and that I was willing to drop it.
We're good then. The next one, 1017.2, I will make this a little bit more. Can you see the comments on the side? Is it big enough? Okay, so we have a model code language that is currently not in WAC, and this section has some existing Washington amendments, which means we need to add it, and nothing special here. We're just adding a model code language. So if somebody has issues with it, it's the time to discuss it. If not, then I'll go to the next one, 1019.3. So currently we have a state amendment that deletes R4. And if the agreement is that we're moving back R4, then we don't need to state amendment, and in the proposal the staff will show it with strikeout, because again it's no longer needed.
So Stoyan, this is Al. Can I just ask, you're saying that this state amendment is part of the model code, correct?
When you see this or group R4 facility, this is part of the model code. And the entire section appears in WAC because of this amendment that you see in blue. If we decide to adopt R4, then we need to add this language back. Well, we need to adopt the model code, which means we have to strike out this section from the WAC. Did I make it clear or worse?
I thought you would just add back the language that you have struck out.
No, I'm showing here the existing amendment. The existing amendment, this is how it reads in WAC, right?
Okay.
And I added this here for discussion purposes, just to show you what is the existing amendment.
Well, I'm probably out of turn here. I hope you don't mind, Todd, but I'm advocating for us moving as close to the model code as possible. So I would like that exception to be, I would like that language to come back into Washington State adopted code.
Well,
My understanding is that's exactly what it does, the way Stoyan's describing it.
yes, so it will disappear from the WAC because we will adopting it in the model code.
Then that's
So,
perfect.
and would the WAC then be section 1019 would be reserved at this point after the new modification?
That's correct. Yes, that's the right way of doing it. But again, this is stuff that will do it. 11.07 11.07. Oh yes, This is related to accessibility, and currently what you see here, this is the modification. This R2 and R4, they are not in WAC, they are in the model code. So the question is, we can't add R2 because it creates conflict with RCW 1927. Do you believe we need to add R4 here? I checked for conflicts. I didn't see any, but I'd like to hear a different viewpoints here.
Stoyan, I guess can you clarify for me what RCW says that would exclude that from R2?
The RCW is specific and requires the council to adopt accessibility provisions for R2 occupancies. And the model code excludes R2 occupancies. This is why when we were adopting 2021 IBC, we struck it.
So the amendment just needs to say R2 and R3. Or R2 and R4.
Yes, that's correct.
This is Al. I'd support that.
Okay, so we are adding back R4. Next one is 2405. So let me clarify a little bit further. So this is not part of Ron's proposal. These are just sections that they have R4 a part of the language. Okay.
I'm not clear on that one. I guess electrical vehicle charging stations shall comply with certain sections. You're saying that those sections are accessibility.
This is related to accessibility, yes.
Okay. And if you're in an R3 or R4, we're saying you don't have to adhere to those accessibility.
Yes.
I
That's
think the term accessibility wouldn't be the correct term because that equates more to disabilities and accommodations.
Exactly. Yes, this is the exact.
Right.
Okay.
So in this particular case, because the R3 overriding the whole concept of changing or adding the R4 is that the code states early on that if it isn't mentioned, that an R4 is to apply as if it's an R3.
Okay.
Well, this is simply following through with that particular broad language that's in section 3.
Like, are we doing something against ADA or something? So
No,
that's where my confusion was coming from. So that clarifies it for me.
This is a model code language, and we struck R2 because we adopted provisions for R2 in section 429.
Okay. Okay.
2405. So the existing state amendment is the deletion of this text. My understanding is we need to keep it, but I can't consider myself a technical expert on that one. So the section is related to glazing and skylights, and this is the screening. And we're talking about an existing amendment in the exceptions.
This is Al. I'd support keeping that amendment.
I believe this amendment is in there from a, I would call it an anti-ligature or a safety security issue, where if you install a screen, you install a means for someone to secure something to that screen. And so the alternate was to include the inner layer that would basically give you the protection against the breakage. So at least this was a while back, but I do recall that this was added because of the need for safety in the facilities when you had an issue relating to, at least it came up. It came up as more of a safety issue, the screen itself.
When I was researching it, I didn't find any rationale for it, the adoption, but I agree with you. It's been in the code for a long time. Okay. Do we have agreement on that?
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah,
I
makes
think
sense.
our does not change. We need to have what we have already.
Okay, moving forward. So these sections, they are not in the WAC. They are sections in the model code. We have our sections here that address R4 somehow. And what the council staff needs to know, do we need to do we need to amend any one of these sections? I don't know, Todd, how do you want me to proceed with that? Should we, I mean, I can go section by section, or I can keep it on the screen, and if the TAC members or members of the public see issues with one of these sections, then
Roger, do you want to weigh in?
Yeah, my preference would be to go one by one, because I do think that this gets into well, at least the first one I know has been discussed a number of times. Is it 16? Is it 15? Is it 18? And I just my personal preference on this is, if the model code is grouping these R4 as 6, is not fewer than 6. So 5 would be, I believe, is you guys know better than me, is that R2 or R3?
R3.
6 would be R4. 16 would be R4. 17 would not be allowed, or would be an I occupancy, I think. Is that the right? So
That's correct.
my preference is rather than us say, well, in the state of Washington, we think we should go up to 18 rather than 16, as we follow the model code and put the break at 16 exactly like it is.
I completely agree and totally support that, Roger.
Same, that's my proposal.
well, this is the model code. We're not changing anything, so we'll keep in it. Okay. So the next one is for R3. Again, if we're going with the model code, then it should stay here, my personal opinion.
I agree.
420.
Story, I'm sorry, this is Ken with Seattle. Are you showing the 2018 or 21?
This is
Because
2021.
Okay,
2021.
so then the 310.5. So you already addressed that, right?
Yes,
with
we
the
addressed
previous-
it because
Okay.
it was in the WAC. These are
That's-
only model code sections. Yes.
Got it. All right, thanks.
Uh, 420.1. Again, it just adding R4 to R3. Well, we're formally not adding anything. It's in the model code already. Okay, then 420.5 fire alarms and smoke alarms is not my best area of expertise, so I'll wait for the professionals here.
I support keeping it.
Yeah, all good.
I do too.
Okay. We have you know what? We have allowable area factor and I don't have it here. Do you want me to find it and open the model code? It was a big table, so I didn't show it.
No, I don't think so. If the intent is to kind of stick with what the model code has for it, you wouldn't want to mess with the table.
Yeah, I don't think there's any issue with just following the model code.
Yeah, I think we're gonna
agree.
probably find out with a lot of these here, unless we find something somebody has a concern with, but that'd be a new state amendment. So I'm comfortable with just leaving the R4s and all.
I agree.
Okay. I have the code open anyway, so if you need me to show something, I will. So table 803.13, this is the other one that I didn't show because it was a big table. Again, I can 803.13. I can show it if you want, or if you are familiar with this. Well, I found it anyway. Okay, here it
I think
is.
it's the same thing. I don't think there'd be any problem with that, and
No, it's
no
all,
reason for us to change it.
yeah,
I
Okay.
agree.
Okay. Uh, 903.282, this is for group R4 condition 1. I guess, again, if we're going with the model code, makes sense to keep it both sections right here.
I agree.
yeah. This is the NFPA 13 DNR issue.
Okay. 903. Come on. Sorry. 903.3123. Do you want me to show it?
I don't think we'll need to.
Good.
Okay. 13D sprinkler systems, again, group R4 model code. Well, we don't have it in WAC. Following the same logic, I guess. You would like it in the code, the same with the next one, group R4 condition 1 in 903.282.
Agree.
Yep, same with 313.
Same with condition 2, I assume.
Yep.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
NFPA 13D.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
In 906.1, this is related to portable fire extinguishers. I don't have the text because it's a long section. If you want me, I can show it. If you don't, we can go.
Let's go with the model code.
Let's go code. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. 907.211.2.
I'm good.
Okay.
Let's keep it.
Chapter 10 is always interesting. So 1006.226. This is in the model code. Again, it groups R3 and R4.
There's no sense changing it.
I agree.
Yeah. Good.
Okay. Pathophygous travel, we have R4 in exception 2. Again, it's grouped with R3.
Thumbs up.
Anybody with thumbs down? No? Hey, that's easy. I'm not used to it. 10.10.11, size of doors. We have R4 in exception 8. I don't have it here because it was too big of a section. If you want me, I can show it. If you don't, I can go.
Model code for me.
Yeah.
Model code.
All good.
Okay. The same with the table. There is R4 addressed in footnote D. It's kind of a big table, so I don't have it. The same.
Model code.
Mm-hmm.
1031. This is for the emergency escape and rescue openings. Again, group R3 and R4 are in the same.
Yep,
Looks good.
let's keep it.
This is accessibility. Okay. R4 is again with R3.
Mhm.
Keep it.
Yep, good.
There is a specific section for group R4 for let's see. Okay, so this is the scoping for R4.
We need that.
And
Mhm.
yes, and I've heard some comments that are related to R4 that, you know, we are discriminating persons with disabilities, and this section takes care of this because it requires accessible units and type B units.
And it also clarifies that it's identifying it by bedroom.
But, you know,
Low-
bedrooms and sleeping
Which
units.
is
Yes,
fine. We had a follow-up, we have maybe an unfinished sentence from our previous session, but yeah, this is all fine.
okay. So this is specific to the accessible units in R4.
Good there.
Yeah, keep it.
Okay. 11.11.2. So
I
this
don't know,
is
this one's really challenging. Yeah, that looks good.
don't
Keep-
stress me
keep-
out.
But once you mention recreational facilities, you never know what's gonna happen.
Oh wow. Yeah. This again, recreational facilities serving R2 and R4.
Keep it.
Yep.
This is still recreational facilities serving type A and type B units. So again, R3 and R4 following the intent.
I'd keep it.
This is for multiple buildings, the same thing, recreational facilities serving type A and type B units in multiple buildings, again, R3 and R4.
I'd
Yep,
support
keep it.
keeping it. Mhm.
11.12.1 is related to signs. R4 is mentioned in exception 2. Again, I don't have it because it was a big section, long, big, whatever. If you want me, I can show it.
I think we're good.
Okay. Protection of openings, the same
might-
thing.
I might like to see that exception.
Which one? 1609?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, you know what? Yeah, let's just take a peek.
1609.
Oh, wind loads?
Yes.
Yeah, that's not an issue.
No, I'd keep it.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, okay. I was thinking about opening protectives. Sorry about that. Hmm.
Okay, so this is all in the building code. I think if the technical advisory group is in agreement, we can prepare the draft for the CR 102 and we can have it for the next BFP meeting next week and for the council meeting. And these sections here in the fire code, they were part of Ron's proposal. And I also have the sections in the model code that have R4 in the text.
May I ask
Ardell and then Roger.
Thank you. My name's Ardell Jalla, building official for SDCI. And I'm sorry, I don't know the rules of the tag and engagement, so thank you for acknowledging, letting me ask a question. One of the differences between I1, C2, and R4 is separation to rated corridors. And I wanted to know if that I'm sorry, I'm trying to track here. I'm not really seeing the discussion around differences between the I1, C2 and the R4. Is that going to be discussed?
This goes, this is Ron Wright. When I mentioned one sentence, it goes back to and Ardell, I think we had this same conversation regarding dwelling units versus sleeping units. Which is what really, that there's a statement, there's an amendment which we talked about, but I don't know if we had resolution to, which requires units to be, I'm paraphrasing, but requires everything to be designated as sleeping units. But then that creates all of the fire partition and code separation, and in fact, creates a situation for all the sleeping units can't be open to an open common room. It becomes an intervening room like a corridor. And so there's a lot of issues that are related to that, but there was one sentence, which is this one that Stoyan has brought up, which is in 420.2, and we talked about the fact that if we're going to have a sentence like this, it needs to be back in the definition of a dwelling unit and a sleeping unit. And there is a huge difference here over whether or not you classify an 8 or 10 or 16 bedroom residential treatment unit as a combined dwelling unit, or whether you individually classify each bedroom as a sleeping unit. And if you do it as a sleeping unit, you pretty well have switched over to all of the code provisions that would be there if you had an I1 condition too. I mean, that one sentence negates the R4 essentially, is what the point we were making. And so I'm not sure we got a resolution last week on this one sentence.
So I just want to let the tag know that the SDCI stance on this, that Seattle Department of Construction Inspections, our stance is that these are sleeping units and that RTF is not a dwelling unit. And I don't know if Ken Roulette feels the same way, but we see these, there are other R4s listed there, and we see those as well, that those are sleeping units that require separation. And so they would have a rated corridor as an R occupancy. And it is a disagreement with Ron and I on what and how we are interpreting the code. I'll just leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ardell. Roger, do you want to speak to that, or do you want Al to go?
I guess sort of. I did want to point out, I don't believe, Stoyan, when you said it's ready, there were this one in particular, but I thought that there were some other things that at our last meeting, I don't know that there was consensus. We talked about a whole bunch of the items and we came up with what we thought was our, the direction we were heading, but I'm not sure there was consensus on everything. So I didn't want to represent that this has all been basically ready to vote yay or nay on the whole package at this point.
I'm not in a hurry.
Go ahead, respond.
Sorry, well, I was going to say I'm not in a hurry. I thought we had an agreement, but I'm.
My personal suggestion, I guess I will get to the disagreement between Ardell and Ron, but what I had understood is, okay, we've gone through it. This is how everybody kind of thought that we would be heading, but I would like to have the opportunity to kind of look at this whole package with all of these. So the document that you have there, Stoyan, if you can send that out, and I can spend a little bit of time going through and confirming ahead of time. And then there may very well be conversations about some of these things either today if we don't resolve this particular issue or others, but we may have the opportunity at our next meeting to bring any other, unresolved questions or in our minds on any of these individual pieces. So that's kind of, that was my question. That's why I raised the hand. On this particular issue, being a structural engineer who doesn't necessarily get involved in where separations are and are not, I really want to understand. So I understand Ardell has a different opinion with Ron. I want to make sure I have a clear understanding of all of of this issue so that I can make an informed decision that I'm, if this is if this is a real big issue one way or the other, I want to make sure I have all of the information before I make a decision one way or the other. So that's it.
I want to clarify specifically, for this section, my understanding was that the agreement was go forward with the existing amendment, and we may go back to it for the next code adoption cycle and have a discussion whether or not this text belongs to chapter 2. This is why I kept the comment here, but again, my understanding was that there was an agreement on that, and I'll follow your direction wherever you want me to, whatever you want me to do, I'll do it.
Okay, let's go Al and then Ardell, please.
Well, first, I just want to say that's my understanding of where we landed last time, exactly what you said, Stoyan. And secondly, representing the Department of Health, we feel strongly about, we align exactly with Seattle Department of Construction and Inspection and Ardell on this. And this, short of something different than this, that's pretty much a non-starter for us at the Department of Health. So this is very important to us. That I mean, it is like you said, a little bit of a give and take here, but this is an important passive mitigation for the safety of the residents in these facilities. So we stand strong in line with Seattle on this, and that's what I remember us agreeing to last time we met.
Okay, thank you for that, Al. Ardell?
So I just want to say, again, I'm not a voting member of the TAG, but I want to offer this to the TAG for further discussion. So you can have it as a dwelling unit. There are compartmentation requirements for the R4. There's also provision about having spaces open to corridors, so for intervening spaces. So what Ron is identifying is a operational requirement to have visual to additional spaces. And so that is something that you may want to consider, whether you make an amendment to still call them sleeping rooms, pardon me, but is there a waiver or some conditions or criteria that could allow the living area to be open to the corridor? And that's, I think, a potential concession that the TAG could consider.
Can I ask?
Go ahead, Ron.
I just, one of the things that overrides this, or at least I wonder if it's possible to get an opinion from the attorney's office regarding Fair Housing Act. Because the reason that I read in the model code that the R4 exists and the 16 exists has to do with if you have a family of 8 people and they're allowed to live in a house and have an environment that has a kitchen and bathrooms, you can't place different requirements on unrelated people living in the same house simply because they need extra help and services. And I'm paraphrasing, but is there a way to get an opinion from the Attorney General's office or from an attorney regarding compliance with Fair Housing Act related to this specific provision, where the dwelling unit definition has a set criteria and what this sentence does is counteract that? And I guess I'm pointing out that in my opinion, it is a violation of the Fair Housing Act to in fact place or require an RTF to be sleeping units, but not a family living in the same 8 bedrooms. And so that's where I'm just asking, is there a way we can have a third party take a look legally at the decision regarding this particular clause?
We don't need the Attorney General. I can offer my help here because there is a interpretation by HUD. It's the HUD and DOJ joint statement that was issued back in 2013, and I think this is addressed there. And I will have it for you for the next
Thank
meeting.
you.
Thank you, Al.
So Stoyan, in that interpretation, are you saying that it's not applicable?
No, I think there is no conflict, but I need to double check. And I'm saying that because this is what I was doing for a living before I joined the State Building Code Council. I was an accessibility consultant. But what you have in the Fair Housing Act, it has different scoping. So for the purposes of this section, my personal opinion, how I read it is there is no conflict, whatever the Fair Housing Act is saying, but I need time to research that.
So I would just like to offer, although I would have to check to see if it's okay, but we actually had a customer come to us and propose this exact thing, this exact situation, Ron, and we had our AAG look at this, and we did get an AAG opinion, and they said this was not a conflict with the Fair Housing Act. Now, those AAG opinions sometimes are, I can't, sometimes I can share them, sometimes I can't. It depends. I'd have to check. If it is available, I'd be happy to share it with you. But this is recent, Ron. I mean,
yeah, and I guess, and part of it is my point, to the degree that it goes back to the entire reason for having the R4 for the RTFs, when they're all designed with a common open space, as Ardell described. There has to be some flexibility, or we're going back to having, I had a sample I prepared. I had 8 units and I had 20 fire dampers, and I had fire partitions, and I had I had a common open room designed as an intervening room.
so
It has to be quarter-like, and all of that.
there's no prohibition from the number of occupants that you have in a sleeping room, Ron. So I saw your example. If you had one large sleeping room with 16 occupants in it, that's not prohibited.
But that doesn't allow you individual red bedrooms then. You're right. I can have a big, huge room with 16 occupants with no partitions, but when I need to have individual rooms, even if they have doors on them or not have doors on them, what you're doing is precluding that particular design or operational. That's the way these facilities operate, is they have individual rooms to protect clients from different sexual orientation and other issues, that they have individual areas or rooms that's important to the operation. And so they're typically structured with up to 16 rooms around a common day area, all in one unit. And it's very similar to the nursing, the suite, or it's a suite arrangement. But the suite arrangement is not allowed if you designate each bedroom as a sleeping unit, because then it needs to have access to a corridor. And the corridor is not there. It turns out it's the common area room. So the code is dictating a method that can't follow how operationally these facilities are built and work.
And I think for good reason, from a building science perspective. And I mean, you can always design it as an I2, Ron, if you want to use the suite provisions. That's certainly allowed. But I think that's considerably beyond what we're trying to achieve here. I do understand your position. But I agree with Ardell that this is, I mean, we already struck some of the other sort of Band-Aids that we were looking at previously, but This is, I think, not an onerous provision in terms of cost to construction. I mean, certainly if you're going to put a central heating system in a building, it might require the dampering that you're requiring, but there are other options. I mean, and we're talking about a 1 hour rated assembly. That's not a significant cost to construction. Even just taking the performative approach to identifying a 1 hour rated fire partition is going to be pretty much how you're going to build the wall anyway.
Well, we've been through this almost. We prepared all the cost. The reason there is a cost difference, and I've got many projects worth to show, it can be up to 30%. And that's the reason that we were working towards getting back to the model code with the R4, but then it negates everything if you go back and add another provision separate that requires the sleeping unit designation. I know we disagree on the cost, but we're the ones building them, and I've got lots of data to show, that fire dampers are not cheap, fire partitions are not cheap, and there's a lot of logistics involved that make, for instance, an 8-unit RTF that's condition 1, that's serving as an RTF, it could be serving individuals looking for weight loss counseling. Is it necessary to have that level of fire protection for that type of unit? And under the model code, I would say no, because the units are operationally set up to where every resident has access to bathrooms and to the kitchen, which is got a person making the meals for people to be there collectively, not individually, but collectively as a group. They exist as a for any other term, a family unit. And then to now place this sentence in that identifies every room as a sleeping unit, which carries more toward individuals who are not related to each other and provides protection for each of those individuals against the other individuals, is contrary to the intent of the R4.
So Al, do you have a rebuttal? And then let's go to Chris, and then let's see if we
Thanks.
can find a pathway here.
Well, I thank you for the rebuttal, because I think what we've done here is we've significantly reduced the cost of construction. We have significant savings by we reduced the amount of sprinkler coverage with an R4. We've got a 13D, 13R potentially. We've significantly reduced the cost of the fire. There's no fire alarm required for condition 1, just single or multiple station smokes. If you're in a condition 2 and you have a 13R, you are going to have some monitoring of the water flow switch, but that's not what we would even know as a traditional fire alarm system. So I mean, yeah, there's some gives and takes here, Ron. I agree, but I mean, they're taking this approach. If we look at all the mitigations that would be changed going to the R4, I'm saying that we're likely saving you over 30% just to go to this R. And I don't design these like you do, and I don't understand the costs, but as you do. So I'll defer to you in that regard, Ron. But I think this is a reasonable position for us to be in. We can always try this out in the state the way that we have it. And if we have a good fire history, and maybe this would be a good opportunity, something that would be great for looking at the next cycle.
Thank you, Al. Go ahead, Stoyan.
I found the HUD and DOJ interpretation. It's question 5. This is how it reads. This is related to Ron's question about the Fair Housing Act.
That says it applies. that was my point. That the act applies so that designating the bedrooms as sleeping units, in my interpretation of this, when if you have up to 16 and a family can be in 16, you can't turn around and under the Fair Housing Act and designate them as sleeping units for non-related individuals.
I don't, Ron, with all my respect, I don't believe these are related. I mean,
Okay,
we can
yeah.
we can continue the conversation. I'm okay with it.
No,
I'm just sharing an opinion here.
yes, no, I got, thank you very much. I mean, I'm willing to take a look at it further myself, because it is, as I've noted, it's a major cost implication, and we've run into a lot of difficulty with building officials having to explain an intervening room that has couches and people sitting in it, and it's not a corridor because it's a common area. And so we've had a lot of education in a lot of jurisdictions over how we deal with an intervening room off of sleeping units designed for the treatment of individuals. So it's come up, it's a big issue, so.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Let's give you a chance here.
Well, hopefully my mic's a little closer to my face now. I'm definitely from the perspective of interpretation in the same vein as Ardell and Al. They are sleeping rooms, they're sleeping units. They are individuals that are transient in nature, right? It's different than other group home situations where people are living there forever. I think of a convent, right? I mean, you are operating as a family when you are a member of a convent. And so the risk goes down because you are familiar with the space, the people around you, you know them, you live with them for a long time. It's similar to having roommates in college, right? You are operating as a family unit. When you have a treatment facility, you may move in, you may move out. You are not operating as a family unit, so there is risk. That's why the code requires that 1 hour separation for those sleeping units. I hear what you're saying, Ron, about that intervening space and understand why it's needed. And I totally would approve something like that in Tacoma, right? So I think instead of solving the problem with this amendment to not require the rating between the rooms, we could solve it through either interpretation or amendments elsewhere that clarify that intervening space that is kind of a corridor with some furniture is acceptable. I think that's the way to solve the issue, is address what we would like to see built while maintaining that fire safety.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Roger, then Michael.
So I have a question for Ron on the cost. Given that this is for the new code, which will require electric heat pumps for the heating and cooling systems, would that not preclude the dampers? And I'm not familiar enough with those systems, but I think that would preclude the damper, if added cost for dampers.
No, the units are required typically to be designed with fixed windows because of contraband and issues going through the windows, or the potential for problems with outside versus inside security, everything else. So it pushes you into an air ventilation system that is forced air. And once you have the air system, and the code will be requiring the heat pumps, but it's what we use anyway. We typically have a DOAS system and then a heating system, but anything that the rooms themselves as sleeping units are all sealed, as there's fire partition, both the ceiling plane and the wall plane. And so every penetration into the room is going to require every air, both the supply and the return, have to have a fire damper. And that's what we've been struggling with, is you have 16 bedrooms that have 32 fire dampers. at 5,000 a piece, plus every year we got to have somebody maintain and go in them, and they have to be located so the residents won't interfere or do something to them. And so we've got creative ways of putting them in the ducts and things, but the new energy code doesn't preclude anything. This will still be a requirement based upon the designation.
And then I, from personally, yes, we're trying to make these RTFs more easily constructed. But if it comes down to a question of safety or cost, I think that safety needs to come first. And then I also have a question for anybody. I don't know if Al or Ardell or Ron. I have a student housing project that I'm working on in the city of Seattle, and there are multiple bedrooms. And so you have, I think that there are up to 6, and I'd have to double check if there are 5 maybe. Bedrooms that are separate. Students have their own bedroom, but then they're shared facilities. So how is that different? Is it that there is, maybe it is limited to 5, so that, but I'm not sure.
I can tell you that there is provisions in the commentary regarding college dormitory arrangements, and I would postulate that this is a situation where you have operationally a functional plan where the residents actually are part of a treatment program managed by staff. You don't have that in the college dorm. And so, and the commentary does address the fact that a college dorm situation is not the same. And granted, but I would put forth that in this case, the operational plan and the licensing requirement makes this different than a college dorm situation.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's go to Michael, then Al, please.
I was going to agree with Ardell and Chris, and Al, with the life safety side. And it seems to me like the unamended code section through here does that, and it provides for those separations. What I don't see, the last sentence that Stoyan's got highlighted there, the amendment, from a building official perspective, that sentence really doesn't mean much to me. It doesn't change anything in the requirement of 420.2. Sleeping units are defined, they're required by the charging language there to be separated. That sentence doesn't change the fact that they require the separation. So that's where my point on this is adding that amendment. One, it doesn't change anything. It just seems to muddy the waters. And if we're going to try to use the codes R4, then the unamended code seems to do what we all want it to do. So
okay.
I'll leave it at that.
No, thank you, Michael. That's interesting. Okay, Al, then Ardell, please.
I just wanted to point out that there are exceptions from having to use fire and smoke dampers in the code today. You have to use a little bit thicker mill of ductwork. You ultimately, if you penetrated the ceiling, Ron, you'd probably have some radiant ceiling dampers. But if you use a certain thickness, a certain mill of ductwork, it actually it accepts you from having fire smoke dampers. So there's ways around that for sure.
Okay, so
Ardell, sorry.
Thank you. So I want to discourage the tag from striking this section. What we're talking about is an interpretation of whether an R4 is a dwelling unit or not. This language doesn't get you there.
I agree. And I fully, this talks about buildings with multiple sleeping
Correct.
units. It's
This is
completely
this
separate.
applies to all 4 occupants or all the occupancies listed, I1, R1,
Right.
R2, R3, R4. By striking that, you would be striking it relative to all of those occupancies. I really want to discourage moving it or changing it. This works the way it is right now. Thank you, Michael, for pointing that out, that this striking this wouldn't change. The question is that is an R4 a dwelling unit? Is not explicit in the code today. It is an interpretation. Ron and I are presenting a different interpretation. And so I just want to clarify that. Thanks.
And I fully agree that, for instance, if you are working with if you end up with a determination that you have a dwelling unit, then this sentence doesn't have any applicability to your project anyway. So, because it's talking about sleeping units. So the whole question that we're postulating or bringing up here is completely separate than this sentence. And so I have no problem with leaving the sentence based upon the fact that this dwelling unit issue is another issue that basically an interpretational one in the model code that would come up. There's no change needed. And it's fine. It's just something that's going to come up as far as our interpretation further down when we get to basically looking at the definitions in chapter 2, when we come forth with an R4. So this sentence is fine.
Okay. Ken,
Hey, Ron, did you mention, and please correct me if I'm wrong, which windows did you say were going to be fixed windows because of security?
Exterior windows in a residential treatment facility or particularly behavioral health are commonly fixed solid. And they're not allowed to open because of operational contraband. So we've done most of our facilities that way. We do have provisions for fire department access where we've created key points for breakage and things like that if we need to. But
so since you added group R4 back into the 1031, those are the provisions that you're just talking about, that there's something special that you do for fire department since emergency escape and rescue windows would be back in?
Yes, we've treated it with different jurisdictions that have brought the issue up. We've been able to show it's something similar to what you use in the high rises where you have a point for tempered glass breakage or something like it. It comes forth. There's a lot of discussion that goes back and forth about it. I guess I don't want to say it's fully resolved.
Yeah, my suggestion is if you're looking at using base code, model code language and putting group R4 back into that section, that you better have an exception for that can be used uniformly across the state, not just have to do it jurisdiction by jurisdiction if you're not going to provide it.
I agree. That's an operational issue related to these facilities security wise that would be important to include. And that's the way we built them. You can't have operable windows because of the contraband problem.
Sounds more like an I than an R to me.
Yeah, and it happens, and it can even happen, believe it. I mean, and even with a condition R4 condition 1, it's detrimental if husband comes by and delivers food to a weight loss clinic, through a window. I'm not kidding. I mean, even with some of the lower order behavioral health, they have people throwing drugs over the fence. So it is an issue where they need to have control over access to the windows. And if it's a screen, permanent screen, then that can possibly be fine. But in general, it's typically better to have the window fixed. And if there needs to be something in that openings section, then that probably should be looked at. Because it's how we do it, at least how we've done it in the facilities that we've been building.
hey, Al, and then I want to take a pulse on how we're doing here.
I would just, we license all the RTFs in the state of Washington at the Department of Health, and we've worked with our providers very successfully. I would be opposed to an exception to the model code that requires escape and rescue openings when applicable, because the providers regularly alarm the windows. There's lots of operational ways that they can control elopement, the passing of contraband and things of that nature without having to eliminate the escape and rescue openings.
Okay, if I can just take a little pause here for a second, I want to make sure we all feel we're being productive in this conversation. I assume we are, but then I'll zoom out and say and establish where we're trying to get to today. And Stoyan, maybe help us with what our goals for BFP if we have a meeting next week. Is that what you're saying?
If there is an agreement on a proposal, I can introduce it before the BFP committee, and the BFP committee can discuss it. And of course, this is an open meeting, so stakeholders and members of the public can participate and share concerns or support the proposals. If there is no proposal that TAC agreed on, then we will continue with the meetings every Wednesday until the technical advisory group members are confident that there is an agreement for a proposed language.
But we don't have to necessarily have a fully baked proposal to still bring it to the BFP for an update or direction.
I will brief, or you, Todd, whoever will brief the BFP committee where we are currently.
Okay.
But if the technical advisory group doesn't have a recommendation ready to go, then we don't need to introduce anything before the BFP committee.
Unless the tags want input
Unless, yes.
from the BFP, your direction.
My impression was that there was an agreement, so I guess I did the happy dancing too early. But
Okay.
if there is no recommendation, then we don't need to.
Okay, and then for everyone, do you want to keep going on this, or do we need to pause and move on to other areas, or is this our goal today? With about 20 minutes left, is that right?
We can address other areas, and I can send you what we have so far, and we can have another meeting next Wednesday, and we'll have the BFP meeting on Friday. So if I will have the agenda item R4 anyway for the BFP, and it depends of the technical advisory group if there is a recommendation or not. If there is a recommendation, I will introduce what the recommendation is. If there is no recommendation, I will just share the information, what we did and where we are. That's
okay. And correction, we're scheduled till noon. So anyone have input on the meeting? Go ahead, Al.
Yeah, thank you. I think we do have agreement. We've gone all the way through this proposal. We're starting to rehash some of the things that we had previously agreed on, which I understand that there's room for that. But I want to emphasize for the entire group, because I'm ready to make a motion for a recommendation from the TAG that we move forward with this and provide this. This would be great in terms of timeliness back to the State Building Code Council. We're making a strong move, a positive move for the state of Washington with the decisions we've made so far. And I want to emphasize that if the State Building Code Council takes our recommendation and moves forward with rulemaking, there are plenty more bites of the apple. That rulemaking process is undertaken by the Administrative Procedures Act. I think it's RCW 43.05, but it doesn't matter. And there will be plenty more opportunities for public and this is a public rules making process. So during the CR 102, there's a hearing. People can provide their testimony. They can provide written comments. And there's the CR 103 step as well. I can't remember. Is there public opportunity in the 103 as well?
Let me clarify the process. So let's pretend we have a recommendation from the TAC, and then it goes to the BFP committee, and the BFP committee can agree, disagree, or amend the recommended language, and then it goes to the council. And what the council can do direct the SBCC staff to file the CR 102, which is off form with the initial proposal. And then we go approximately with 2 months comment period and public hearings. During this time, we collect the testimony, and then the council will have a work session. And after the work session, the council will direct the staff to file the CR 103, which will be the formal adoption. So we have, as Al said, several opportunities for folks to raise their concerns or show their support. It's the technical advisory group is just the first step.
And so, and I assume at this point, you and staff have a full grasp on the discussion today and to bring a recommendation and opposing viewpoints forward to the BFP.
I think, well, based on the conversation, yes, but we haven't had any formal vote. Yes,
correct. But I just want to make sure everyone understands that both the dissenting opinions also can move forward into the discussion, into the process. Roger, why don't you go ahead, please?
Yes, and I have a question about the BFP committee meeting. When is that scheduled? I don't see it on the website, and
it's not on the, well, it should be on the website, but we haven't posted the agenda yet because I wasn't sure if we will have any result today. So
right. Do you have the date though?
It will be next week on Friday.
The 14th?
14th, yes.
Okay.
Okay, Al. Oh, go ahead, Roger. Finish off. Sorry.
Well, I was Ardell's point of there is a question in my mind whether these rooms need to have the fully contained 1 hour fire ratings. I think Ardell solved that seems to be separate with her comment that taking it out doesn't solve that question. So I think that I'm fine leaving this sentence in, and I'm still, leaning towards, again, life safety needs to be the #1 priority. So considering any amendment, how it would be written, I think that would have to come, I would say leave it in as it is now. And then if there is an amendment that wants to be considered, that's separate. So that's kind of where I'm driving.
Okay. Thank you. Al, go ahead.
Todd, would it be appropriate for me to make a motion at this time? On
this particular section?
Yeah,
I think it. Yeah, I think it is.
Well, I'd like to make a motion that the TAG and the work group here recommend this language for consideration to the BFP. I think that's correct. At their next meeting, and that staff, we've gone through this whole thing already, and I think we have, for the most part, general agreement on most. We're not going to get everything that we want, but I think there's general agreement. We've been through this. I think we're in a good position
Hey, Al,
to move forward. Yes.
Let's cut off the motion first, get a second, and then you can speak to the motion.
Motion to recommend this for consideration to the BFP.
Okay, perfect. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Michael, thank you. And now, Al, can you speak to it? I think you just did, but anything else?
No, I'll leave it at that.
Okay, thank you, Al.
For
Any other
clarification purposes, is it specific to 420.2 or all sections including 420.2?
My motion specific to everything that we've gone through this entire proposal, and you've been editing as we've been going through. So as we see this proposal, leaving the sentence in 420.2, we previously agreed to that, although we rehashed that a little bit. So it's the entire proposal as you have it now. I'm making a recommendation that go forward to the BFP.
Okay, are we fully through everything now?
I think so.
Yes.
Okay, I'm seeing nods. Okay, Ken, do you want to speak to this, please?
Did we run through the fire code?
Not yet, no.
Okay, then I'm voting no. If we haven't gone through everything, we shouldn't be voting for everything right now.
I agree. This might. I thought I was seconding the motion on 420.2.
Yeah, I think that's good to clarify, because okay, Al, I have to admit, that was my understanding too. You're trying to move us past this section.
Okay, well, I could make a motion to keep the sentence in 420.2. I mean, we already previously agreed to that at the last meeting. But I will make a motion to retain the last sentence of 420.2 as shown on the screen.
Okay, Michael, that's how you understood? Your
Correct.
second?
That's what I seconded, yes.
Okay, yeah. Likewise, I thought we were trying to formalize a vote to move past this section, whereas we had consensus on the other one, so we were gonna do official vote here. Anyone else? Everyone else understand it that way, or have anything else to comment on? Ken, please.
I have a quick question. Are the exceptions still proposed to be deleted?
Yes, so the exceptions, the first three exceptions, they're no longer in the model code. Okay, they were in 2018 for the first printing. ICC removed them because it was the exceptions were included by mistake, and the SBCC didn't catch that. So the exceptions 1, 2, and 3, they're no longer in the model code, and we'll remove them. And the agreement was for exception 4 and 5 to be removed as well.
Okay, thank you.
Richard Washington amendments. Okay, Ken, we're still speaking on 420.2, correct?
Yes, so I heard the discussion that we had on the last sentence of 420.2. We didn't have any discussions that I remember on any of the exceptions until what Stoyan just said, that all of them are being struck.
Okay.
So we haven't had any discussion on this, and
We absolutely did.
I would
Ken.
really like to see a clean copy of what I'm voting on and just not what's on the screen. It would be nice if we just had one clean copy of a document.
You can't have cleaner copy than what you have, because these sections, these exceptions will be shown with a strikeout as part of this proposal, because there was a discussion the last Wednesday. Again, exception 1, 2, and 3, they shouldn't be there. They should be removed. It's a editorial correction because they're not part of the model code anymore. They are here by mistake. And the agreement was that exception 4 and 5 should be proposed for deletion.
So that was voted on last week to get rid of 4 and 5.
Yes. So even if I sent you a cleaner document, then these exceptions will be with strikeout.
Okay, I just want to make sure I just said it was voted on by the tag to remove it.
So if I can jump in again, we haven't voted on the whole package, right? We're simply trying to, move forward on this section and then fold it into the main package for a recommendation.
Todd, if I can, I took over for you running the meeting last week, and there was a lot of discussion last week about all of these items. It was agreed to, as Stoyan explained, 1, 2, and 3 need to be struck out anyway because they are not in the model code anymore. There was discussion on 4 or 5, and there was general agreement to strike those, and we moved on. At last week's meeting, there were no formal proposals or acceptance of anything. So the current motion on the table, which does not address the exceptions, I believe it only addresses getting rid of the one sentence up above, is the only motion that we've had officially as a tag.
Thank you, Roger. And again, this is to move us forward and start to build the package up that we will vote on to recommend. Go ahead, Dave.
This is a clarification because it's been a little bit confusing. Is this only the building tag members can vote, or building tag and fire tag are represented here can be both vote?
This is for the building code tag, and I started with this question for the fire code tag members. When we get to the fire code sections, if you want to vote for these specific sections, because most of these sections are the same. And we can get to those a little bit later, and you folks provided your comments, and to the best of my understanding, you agreed with the changes so far, or with the proposal so far, but I will leave it up to you if you want to vote on these specific sections, or I'm not sure how you want to do it. But for this vote, this is the building code tag. This is part of the building code. If the agreement is that the tag members want to wait until the sections in the fire code are discussed, it's up to you how you want to do it.
Okay, go ahead, Al, and then Ardell.
Well, then, based on that, I'd like to make a new motion that we accept this proposal as edited and send it forward as a recommendation for rulemaking to the BFP.
So Al, I think my question is, we're not fully through all the sections yet, are we?
We are for the building code.
We are for the building code, okay. Okay, I think we have a motion, we have a current motion on the table though, so you're withdrawing that other motion. Is that the point of order I was going to hear?
That's what a point of order. I believe that there's a motion on the table and,
Yeah.
and it's been seconded, so we need to vote on that. And
Okay.
then there can be another motion.
Thank you, Roger. And does everyone understand it? As Roger explained it, we're simply trying to move past this one section where we've had a lot of discussion to then, move on towards a whole package, or a decision to let the fire code review it also. Does everyone understand that? Can we take a simple vote on 420.2? Can you scroll up just a little bit, please? Okay, so the motion on the table right now is to vote for inclusion of this sentence, so we can roll this into the package and move past this discussion. Let's try a simple voice vote of the IBC tag members. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed, nay?
Aye.
I'll repeat, any opposed, nay? Okay, so the ayes have it. Now let's finish off discussion. Is everyone comfortable with the exceptions? Was there some concern about the strikeouts of the model code and then the two amendments? Okay, all right, Adele, I'm sorry.
So I just want to be clear, starting on the history. Exceptions 1, 2, and 3 are in the model code in 2018. They are stricken from the 21. I don't have any issues with that. Exceptions 4 and 5 are existing Washington amendments that the state tag did not, I don't know, I'm going to need to go back and look at the CR 102 and 103, not just what's posted on the WAC. What I need to, are you able to verify that the state did not continue the existing Washington amendments of item 4 and 5 in the 21 code adoption? Not just what's in the WAC, but what's showing up on the WAC and on the website, but what's in the CR.
In the CR 103, you will see this.
4 and 5 is stricken out?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, nothing is stricken out.
Okay.
Okay.
So at the state process, the 21 code adoption, the state did adopt exceptions 4 and 5. Is that correct?
The state did adopt the model code, and by mistake we included exceptions 1, 2, and 3, and they're not in the model code.
That's so I'm fine with the tag here is addressing what looks to be an error then at the state tag process in terms of 21 code adoption. So I just want to caution that may be a little bit outside of the scope of this work group. We're addressing 4 and 5. So I just want to question whether 4 and 5, 1 is the intent from the state tag process the 21 code adoption process to keep Washington amendment of exceptions 4 and 5.
No,
And then
I'm sorry.
Then just secondly, is that is that really within the scope here to address other provisions outside of R4?
The agreement last time, and I'll provide more details on that, but the agreement during the last meeting was to strike exceptions 4 and 5.
Go ahead, Al.
Okay, so Ardell, these are the Department of Health's, we submitted these state amendments for the 2018 cycle. So we supported these were supported by the tag and we got them into rule. This was 4 and 5 was sort of a Band-Aid approach to some of the concerns that Mr. Wright had previously brought up. So we were trying to provide some relief with 4 and 5, but we all agreed at the last meeting that with the relief provided with the adoption of the R4, exceptions 4 and 5 are no longer required.
Okay, and I apologize to the tag for taking up time that has already been dealt with, so.
No, and exception 5 in particular was related specifically, if I recall, to the unit that's in Seattle that in fact is designed like this. And it basically, as Al just said, 4 or 5 years ago, we had to come forth and create a solution that responded to the operational methodology of the behavioral health units. And so that's how the number 5 even showed up.
And I realize that this is the process of the tag, and so I apologize for taking up that time and repeating it. I do still stand that this is outside of the scope of this particular work group and the R4 off-cycle rule.
So Ardell, it's completely appropriate to bring it up, and I'll just give one last chance for everyone before we would roll it into the package of challenging that.
I guess the only thing I would point out is that the reason these items are here is because we didn't have an R4. And so that's the relevance, is that now that we're coming back with the R4, the methodology is to go back and look at the things that were added to the code to respond to the fact that there wasn't an R4. So that's why these 2 items have come forth as topics, because they related to the R4 question a few years ago.
Okay, thank you for that. We'll make sure that if that question is raised in the BFP, then we can address it. Okay, so with that, I'm hearing, are we through all sections that need to be considered?
There was a comment the last time. My proposal was to eliminate this table, and somebody made a comment that it better stay for now, because I think Micah wanted to discuss it, if I remember correctly, but I never understood why. So I want to point that out.
Okay. We don't have Micah today, I don't think, right? I don't see him. Anything else you'd like to note on this, Stoyan, or feedback?
Well, again, this is the state amendment, the removing of R4. If we are adopting the model code, then we need to struck the entire section from the WAC. And I showed it stricken the last time, but Micah said he wanted to. Again, I don't have my notes here, and we don't have the minutes ready yet, but my understanding was that he wanted to discuss that, and I wasn't sure why.
Okay. So let's park that and have a discussion here about whether or not the IBC tag is ready to make a recommendation, or if, because this is really whether we should wait for the IFC tag if the tag wants to meet. And so maybe I'll open it up to IFC tag members, per Stoyan's question of what your desire is. I heard some concern earlier about whether the IBC tag should make a recommendation until the IFC tag can do a review and have under an IFC tag meeting. Is that true?
This is why we invited the IBC and the IFC,
Yep.
because most of these sections, they are with the same or similar language. So what I did, this is IFC, and what I did, I made the same edits as the building code. So the sections you see highlighted here, they were already discussed at the IBC technical advisory groups, and IFC TAC members provided comments.
Yep. So can someone advise us on process, or can IFC tag members advise us on desire to have a meeting and take a vote?
I would like to point out we don't have an IFC tag quorum.
Right, and that's I just was asking for opinions from IFC tag members here, whether there's a desire to have a separate meeting. Okay, I'm not hearing an opinion. Stoyan, Dustin, what's your recommendation?
As somebody who's on both tags, I'm not exactly excited to have another meeting.
Understood.
I think you have perspectives from some of the more vocal members of that tag, even though we don't have a quorum, so.
I agree, Chris. I think
Yeah.
we can conclude our business and if so desired, make a recommendation and a motion and for a recommendation. So with that, we're ready. Let's so should we entertain a motion for a recommendation? I'll leave it to someone else. Oh, I'm sorry, Al, you had your hand up. I just wasn't looking.
If it's now appropriate, I would like to make a motion that we recommend this language to the BFP for rulemaking as shown on the screen for both the potentially the fire code sections and well, I'll just speak to the building code section since I'm on the
Right.
building code tag. Okay.
This is the IBC, so thank you. Okay, do we hear a second for?
I'll second that.
Okay, thank you, Michael. And just to clarify, we're making a recommendation of the building code sections. Okay, any discussion? Roger?
Yeah, I guess I have a question for Stoyan again of just the schedule and the process. I understand there's a BFP meeting next Friday and a full building code council meeting the following Friday. On the, with everything going on, is it critical? Is it from a timing perspective? Is it critical that we get this voted on so that you can get it incorporated? Or if this is an off cycle, if we waited another month and got, had a few more meetings, because I think there are still some outstanding questions. So Stoyan, is there a reason for us to try to get resolution to this as soon as possible?
From talking about the adoption cycle.
You're on mute. Or it doesn't show you on mute, but I can't hear you.
We heard, Roger.
Talking about the code adoption cycle, we have time. So if it's not in the meeting in April, we'll do it during the meeting in May. However, I'm not the technical expert here, so I don't know how. I would leave Al and Ron talk about the importance of the time, because I don't know based on how important it is to adopt this as early as possible. But again, related to the policies and procedures, I'm not in a hurry. We can do it anytime.
The original proposal mandated a date. I realize it's not a fixed date, but April 15th was supposed to be the date.
Yes. So if we pass April 15, which we will, I need to ask the council for extension.
And there was a key reason because of these impending projects, particularly for instance, the ones in Kitsap County, that even with the alternative of allowing a local jurisdiction to use a code alternate, that's not as simple a process as it might seem to be. And so there is a need I would say immediately to try to not hold off on something that if it can go through, and that's the reason the April 15th deadline was placed, it should happen. And I just advocate for that.
Well, I have some concerns that people have not been able to express all of their opinions, although if I remember now the April 15th and the discussion we had as a group. So I'm knowing that we have the opportunity at the BFB for folks to, if there's a minority opinion that still wants to be expressed, they can do it at that point. I'm ready to vote yes on the motion.
Okay, thank you, Roger. And just to clarify, and of course, the BFP has many options available, and again, will be another public opportunity, including remanding, option of remanding back to either of the tags if necessary in questions. Al?
Thank you. I'd just like to support what Ron said. While it was very helpful for the State Building Code Council to provide an interpretation, and we've had good cooperation or opting into that, into using that interpretation by several local AHJs. I currently know that there are a number of large AHJs that are not willing to use the interpretation until a rule is adopted. And that does have an impact to some of the major areas in the state that have a considerable need for these types of services. So I would encourage the tag to move forward.
Okay, thank you for that. And I agree. I think this is the first step, and then moving this to the first level of the appointed committee gives us some weight, and there's opportunity to continue the public process. So I'm supportive of this. Any other discussion? Okay, with that, I think we can take a voice vote. Is that correct? We'll be fine. Let's start with that. Unless you want to take roll call, Stoyan. Is there any reason we need to take roll call?
No, but
Okay.
it's up to you. How
All right, let's do roll call. Let's make sure everyone's here.
Dustin, are you able
Yes.
to? Okay.
All right, roll call. Adam Phillips. Alan Spalding.
Aye.
My thing messed up. Hold on. Andrea Smith. Bill Bush.
Aye.
Let's see, Charles Cavano. Chris Seaman. Was present earlier, not present now. I'll come back to Chris.
Sorry, I can't find the mute button. Aye.
Oh. All righty. Corey Thomas. That's a no.
Aye.
Dave Germer. Michael Barth.
Aye.
Susan Kaufman.
Aye.
Roger Herringa.
Aye.
Sean Karlstrom. Will Rodriguez. And the ayes have it.
Thank you for that. Okay, with that, is there anything else, Stoyan or Dustin, we want to say about this agenda item?
If there are still technical advisory group members, the IFC technical advisory group members, are you okay for meeting next week at the same time to go over the fire code sections? Well, we'll send an invite and we'll see if we can complete it. If we can't, then we'll figure out something else.
A point of clarification, Stoyan, the proposal I submitted with the fire code, we've discussed modifications to my proposal and have been accepted. And those would carry over to the applicable sections that are identified in the fire code.
Yes, but because I think I heard fire code TAC members wanted to have a discussion on this, so this is why we'll have the fire code TAC discuss and approve.
But they would obviously have our comments with them, so they'd know that what we discussed already, as far as, for instance, these first sentences that are highlighted, and we had a long discussion about these last week.
We had a long discussion. We had members of the fire code TAC attending the meetings.
Yeah, okay.
And I can't predict if they would like to discuss these sections again, and this is why I highlighted them and kept the initial language just to show, you know, what was the decision related to the building code.
Because the same provision or the same issue regarding the 10.10.214 would be applicable in that I acknowledge that it wasn't necessary to include in the building code. And so we pulled it out of the proposal.
Okay, well, this is why I have it highlighted, and I was planning to say, okay, this was kind of withdrawn. So
Great.
I think
Got it.
I think we have a common understanding on that. I just wanted to keep it in the same format as it was for the building code. Didn't want to make a difference, but I will clean up the document, so the fire code TAC will have the language that the building code TAC agreed on, so they can compare, and if they want, they can discuss it.
Okay, I think then we're done with agenda item 3. So thank you, everyone. With that, we can adjourn. So appreciate everyone's time.
Thank you.
Thank you.